basically where I left off, we were picking a username for the person who logged in with GitHub. And we were using basically the default, this has been pinging the website with WebSockets for a very long time. But basically we're taking the default username from GitHub, and then we are allowing the user to pick a different username. And I was thinking about this and I was like, actually, we're going to wait and put off picking a username till later, because I basically want to have the fastest experience to creating a code review. And so now I'm thinking this is the process or steps that I want. A, you click login with the GitHub. B, you select your repository. And C, your code review is created. And now you can go in and add stuff, but your code review is there. And so we're basically going to eliminate the middle step of picking your username. We're going to basically just use the username you have on GitHub. And then if you want to, you can go and change that later. So to do this, we're going to just remove this pick username page. We're pretty much just going to not have it. So in that case, I'm just going to come over here to web pages and kill pick username. So with that said, what are we going to do today if we're not going to work on pick username? So the first thing we're going to set up is GraphQL code generator. So we're going to be using this, and we're going to be using this to generate our types when we're trying to access GraphQL APIs. In this case, we're going to be contacting or accessing the GraphQL API from GitHub. So we're going to attempt to generate types for this so we can know the TypeScript types when we're accessing things. And so this is where we're going to set up the tooling for. And then after that, we are going to fetch the current user's repositories. And then we're going to be using downshift. And that's going to be in between here. So downshift is a library that will allow us to create an autocomplete input, and that's where people are going to pick their repository. And I'm going to edit this. We're not going to pick a branch right now. So we'll save this for after the MVP. Pick branch for repos. For now, I'm going to assume the master branch. We'll not assume just whatever the default branch is. And then lastly, we're going to create a code review entity. So that's what we're going to attempt to do today. We'll see how far we get. So really the first thing to do is to try setting up the code generator setup and then fetching the user's repos. So to do this, the first thing we need to do with code generator is to get a schema. So if we go to the docs, and we can kind of follow what we did with, we set it up with CodePonder before. Octokit, it has every endpoint array set up and written in TypeScript. Octokit. So they have I assume they have like a TypeScript version. Let's search that. That would be freaking amazing. Then we don't have to set this up ourselves. Thank you, Lulu. I'll just click on OctoKit and see which ones they have. Check out OctoKit REST. Okay. This one. So do we want to just use the REST API versus the GitHub API then? Awesome. So I noticed they also have a GraphQL JS one, so I'm kind of curious about this one. I don't see any. It would be kind of nice to access it through one of these things, because it's going to be kind of awkward to have two Apollo clients and try to juggle those. So I kind of like using something like this. Okay, this GraphQL.js library looks like it offers nothing. Some things are not in the GraphQL version, some are not in the rest. GitHub has a lot of different APIs. Yeah, they do. I was noticing that. I was just kind of like playing around with the API and seeing which things I can select with their little GitHub GraphQL graphical interface here. And they have quite a bit of stuff also just to like go through and try to find what we want to fetch. So in that case, I have two options here. Because I can just use this as my interface to access this, or I can just make REST calls through the octokit. I feel like the octokit may be faster actually. All right, let's start with the octokit because I think we're going to be able to do this just way faster. Because then we won't even have to set up half of that stuff. All right, let's go through the getting started of this. So we need to install this. So let's make sure our server starts up. And does it come with types? Let's click on lib package.json. Awesome, it comes with types. And let me just set that. So I guess we need to configure this somewhere. So we'll copy this and I'm just going to create in my lib here an octo. I'm just going to call it octo. So this looks like it's going to be using version 3 of the API. All right. Nice. So this has all the things. All right. So that's nice. I want to authenticate. Well, no, I don't want to authenticate, but what I want to do is add the headers. All client options with default values. Yeah. Because basically what I want to do is I want to add the authentication or access or refresh token in the headers. Because it only sets the tokens. Yeah, I was wondering if authenticate is going to actually, like we already authenticate with OAuth, so I'm wondering if I can just pass the tokens in, or let's look at what their code does for that. Maybe a lib. Okay, I think authenticate actually doesn't make a network call. That's what I wanted. I'm building a service that will integrate between GitHub and another service and use a project called Probot for capturing webhooks and then octokit to interact with GitHub. It's really nice. And GitHub came with a thing called GitHub Apps. Well, that'll make things easier to do than before, just as OAuth as well. Then you can interact as an app to do some stuff and then use OAuth to do user stuff. Cool. Yeah, that's basically what I want to do. So type OAuth and then tokens from your login. Okay. Well, what I will do is since we only get this after we authenticate or log in, why don't we create a function that will create the octokit? So I'm going to say let octokit actually, can I say octokit? I guess we can just authenticate later whenever we want to. This is fine. We'll set it up like this and call authenticate when we do our login. So in our server now, I want to take you to pick repo. So you don't have to pass anything to config, you just do the auth when necessary. Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. I wasn't sure if I wanted to like set it up before like in the class constructor. So I want to do this in the static. So I want to fetch the current user, and when I fetch the current user, I'm also going to grab their access token and their other token, refresh token, because we're storing both of those. Other way. So does it only need one token then? Does it not need the refresh token? I guess it only needs that if it fails. Okay, we'll just give it the access token. I'm cool with that. Because yeah, we don't have, yeah, we're gonna use this option, I suppose. Okay, so then why do they give us a refresh token then? That's odd. So in our API over here, entity user. So we're gonna add two fields to our user here. And what you'll notice, these are fields are gonna be access token, which is a string, and refresh token. Actually, we're not even gonna expose the refresh token because all we need is the access token. And you'll notice I'm not adding the column field because this is not a type on the database. It's gonna be in me resolvers. So when we return me, we need to return a user. So we're gonna say const user. All right, so we're gonna say if not user ID, return null. Otherwise, we're gonna fetch a user. And so, okay, I was gonna do all this, but I actually decided I want to do something else instead. We can keep it like it. So what I was going to do is pass the access token in the return function of this, but that's wrong way again. We actually don't need to do that. So when I go over to type GraphQL, we can actually resolve the access token field itself. So we are going to go to the API, introduction, and this is going to be in the fields. And by the way, this should be, we're going to just -1. So we want to resolve, so let's go to resolvers. And we want to resolve one of the fields. So it's going to be a query recipes It's not what we want. We want to resolve an individual field. Field resolver, exactly. So this is for access token. And we actually don't care about the root here, which is like the parent. We actually just care about the context. Because I can say context. Oh, and can the access token be nullable? No, if they're logged in, then we know we have one. So we're going to say context.request.session, and we're going to say access token. And we know we have this because when the user logs in, we set it right here. Request.session.access token. And so we're just grabbing that and we're returning that. We don't need that. Okay. So I think I want to set up GraphQL code generator so we get type definitions from our query here. I just want to make sure our server isn't crashing first. So it says it wants an explicit type. So let's give it one. This is going to be a string. And I'm not sure if I need to import string from this. Nope. I'm going to do a lowercase string. Nope, it wants to be uppercase. Okay. So I actually did it correct there. And our server starts. So that's the server part of this. So now if I go to localhost 4000/graphical, and I'm going to just move my code over here because I keep going to the left. And now your project looks like Nest.js project. Yeah, it actually resembles it quite a bit. And now we have an access token on it. Cool. So, oh, we already have a codegen.yaml. Okay, cool. We have our stuff right here that I wanted. Do we even have, we have literally everything set up for the code generator. So what we needed to do was install these 4 packages, which we have installed. And then our YAML over here, this is our configuration. We have our schema. This is our documents. And I'm going to create that right now. So I'm going to say GraphQL. And components, it's going to create those for us. Perfect. So I'm going to create a folder for user, and inside of user, I can make another query. It's going to be me.tsx. Nope, we're just going to do, I'm trying to decide if I want ts or .tsx. Let's do tsx because I might want to add an Apollo component to this later. What's the extension that shows the text with the git commit date? That is git lens. This guy. It's actually pretty cool. It does a ton more than just that too. And I kind of want to create a fragment for this. And I want to put all my fragments in a single file, I think. I'm trying to decide if I want to do that or not. No, I don't. So I'm going to be setting up a fragment here because I know I want to fetch Actually, do I know I want to fetch up a user in multiple places? I don't think I do know that yet. So I'm going to wait to add the fragment till a later date. So just giving it a name, and these are the fields that I want to request. So I want both TSX Oh, I have Apollo in there right now. So GQLGen is what GraphQL generator uses. So I didn't wrap it in me, which I needed to do. All right, so now we should have, I did generate, we have a schema, that didn't change. I think it should have though. I'm not seeing a color change though. It for sure created some Apollo components, and here's our GraphQL types. And so why did I add that? Well, now in our pick repo over here, we can pass in the me query. And we need to return something here, so prettier will format for us. Is I can pass in right here. Perfect. So this is where we can authenticate Octo, dude. And if this does not work, okay, we do not have a redirect. So I'm going to create redirect. So this redirect function that I want to call is something I saw in the examples for Next.js. And we just want to redirect the user if they're not logged in. Apollo. So we're just going to copy it verbatim here. And you can see we're just redirecting the user on the server one way and on the browser another way. So me, as you can see, can sometimes be null. If that's the case, we are going to redirect. And here we pass in the context, which is this object. And we want to just, I guess, where do we want to redirect them? We'll just redirect them to the home page. And then this means we're good to authenticate the particular user. All right, so we said if it's not me, I think I have to destructure it here. So me is possibly null, even though it's because we're not returning. There we go. So access token will pass that in. And so now I should be able to request things for that particular user. The other thing I want to grab here, is this a response? I didn't know if that was going to be returning a promise. Hey Quimper, how you doing today? So now we can use octokit here. And let's grab their repos. All right. Just looking at their parameters and see what I can pass in. I don't see, let's see just our API over here. So we don't need this anymore, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, okay. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's pretty cool to become an affiliate. Find repositories via criteria. Perfect. Kind of perfect. We don't really need to just like search. We just want to find all the users' repositories. List repos maybe. I think list repos is what we want, it looks like. Can I not access list repos? Command click repos, and then the params you'll get in VS Code. Yeah, that's probably what I should have done. That would have been. Oh, that's what I need to do. .apps. Yeah, I usually do that. Like bam, bam. All right, what do we want to pass in? Let's just get 100. So I'm going to make a I'm making an assumption here that the person has less than 100 repositories. I'm going to worry about that assumption later. So I just want to add a to-do, handle the case where they have more than 100 repos. All right, so this is going to give us a promise. So wait it. .data, .repositories. And that's an array of things. Cool. So I guess I just want to and we'll say repositories. Let's match the same lingo. We'll just pass that in there. So my props now, I'm now going to have access to the repositories. So I'm going to say, I also have access to me, but I don't really care about that right now. I'm guessing I can import that maybe from the octokit. Where should I import that from? So repos.list repos. Okay, so that was the right option. Cool. So you want to be able to use the apps of just, it will also use repos.list repos. Hi Ben, just want to say thanks for your streams. You're welcome, man. I learned some architecture tips from you. Cool. Yeah, that's why I'm doing it. I'm hoping you can get some tips and insights into what it looks like to like build a real application. So I'm glad it's been pretty helpful. I'm not sure where this guy comes from though. So like sometimes, so we're getting it from octokit. So why don't we just click on octokit and see if they export it, and they do not. I think what we can do is we can actually import it like that maybe. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna say repositories. We're gonna log it. Now let's view it. So we're gonna say yarn dev, and if this works, we should see all the repositories for the user. So that broke it, and I know why I broke it. It's because we removed an option. And it's gonna be right here, yeah. So TS node, we need to specify a TS config. You need to change apps.list repos to repos.list repos. So what is the difference between app.list repos and repos.list repos? So apps is everything for GitHub apps and other for the user. We'll take a look. For whatever reason, it doesn't let me access repos dot search repos. Or sorry, repos dot list. Yeah, it doesn't have a repos dot list repos. Is there another thing that I'm supposed to do? All right, let's go back to the API doc real quick. So list requires that anything user has explicit permission to access for an installation of thing user they own. Permission to access. It says right here that it also gives them access to the ones they own. This may be the right thing. Yeah, I know. I'm not an app installation. You're right. So I'm not sure if that's the wrong thing. There's this list repos for teams, and there's list repos for that. And we don't really want to search anything. You know what I mean? I mean, let's just see what happens. Let's see if the me adding that flag fixes it. The -- project tsconfig server. Cool, looks like it did. They changed their API a while back. Wait, what are we picking? What did I call this? Pick repo? Bad credentials. I reset my secret, so I'm thinking I just need to log in again, would be my guess. I'm not sure why I didn't make this the login with GitHub, the index page. I'm gonna get rid of the index and name home index. That way I can do this faster. If you'd like to help us test the integrations API during this preview period, just say custom meta type in the accept header. Repos.list should do the trick. Cool. We'll give that a try. I mean, we'll just type it over here. So do you know what's going on with this error? Octocat does take care of those headers. So is it just because we were trying to access the wrong thing here? Yeah, it looks like it was just because we were trying to access the wrong thing. Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna log the response from repos because it doesn't look like we got anything in there. All right, we are definitely getting stuff. Yeah, we're definitely getting a lot of stuff. Oh, this is sad. Repos.list gives us the type anything. All right, so let's say repos, is it .data? Let's see if we're just doing the wrong thing. So is this an array? Yeah. So it looks like you don't do .repos anymore. Nice. So we have a crap load of items now. So here is a whole bunch of my repositories. And I want to just see if this is like the right typing up here. So I'm going to say archived and archive URL. Yep, looks like we have access to those. I'm guessing this is the right typing. We'll see if there's a problem later. All right, so really the only thing I care about is the name. Great. And if it's a fork, should we just like ignore it? I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a review on a fork though. Now let's just say ignore forks for now. All right, so we're good to get started on coding like the autocomplete box that takes all of these and you type in and you pick which one you want to pick. So I'm thinking, you know, we have plenty of requests we can make to the GitHub API. I was thinking maybe of saving the data so we don't request it every single time, but I don't think we need to worry about that. So this is going to be a formic form. And I'm just going to control C this because we don't need it to request a whole bunch of times while I write out the form. And you know what? A formic form actually may be just overkill because we're going to have a single field. Let's just actually just do a single downshift element. So we're going to put this in our components. We're going to say autocomplete.tsx. Actually, this is going to be an auto select. We're going to call it an auto select. Because it's a select field that's kind of autocomplete, basically. That might be a poor name they're rendering there. Okay. So we're going to take items as an input here. I'm trying to decide how I want to set this up. I guess we want to have them pass in items. So we're going to say I'm going to say anything for now, and then we're going to do a proper TypeScript generic in a second. We'll have them implement onChange. So I'm thinking about how I want to set this up, where I pass in items and onChange, and the types line up. I believe I can get it to, I can set up a generic, but I'm going to go ahead and just do this. So selected item, which is any, and then state helpers is the second argument. Where is items being used? Right there? Okay. So I'm going to keep this the default stuff there. So let's render our auto select now. So our items is the repositories. Yep, it's .name. All right, let's take a look at this. Just want to clear some of these tabs now. Enter a fruit. HTML4 did not match. This is exactly what we're getting. So just give it IDs or what? Sure, you can probably have your own IDs if you're props. All right, I'm cool with just giving them all IDs. Full underscore name is the non-slug version. Should we use the non-slug version? All right, that error went away. Item.value.includes. Each child in the array area should have a unique key. Really? They didn't have a key? Ah, they did not. Well, they just did not do that. All right, so the one I want is CodePonder. And we have now selected our repo. All right, I mean, that's what I wanted. Yeah, that's sweet. So when I click that, the next step is to create that in the database that, hey, we're making a code review for the accounts repository for Ben. And then we also want to fork it. So forking is going to be interesting. I think we'll leave that last. So let's update where we are at. So we set up GraphQL generator. We fetch the current user's repos. We set up downshift, and we created an autocomplete field. Now, of course, this is very ugly right now. We'll come back and add an actual nice, pretty interface. But let's go ahead and now create this. So we're gonna say auto select to pick repo. So we're gonna make a code review entity. We can make it a type GraphQL type for now. I think that's fine. I was thinking about removing it and just keep making it a typeform one at first, but we're gonna expose this, so might as well. All right, so what do we want to store? Actually, let's not get rid of all that because we want to store it like this. So definitely the name, the description, the date it was created. That may be useful. We're not going to save it for now though. The default branch. I wonder why they underscore everything. Why do they have underscores in all their data? I guess that's just what they picked. By the way, I was gonna make, oops, wrong way. I keep going to the left. I was gonna filter out forks. No, it wasn't. That's fine. We'll just leave that in for now. We'll consider removing it later. There's not really a huge difference for removing it or not. Has downloads, has issues. I feel like it's probably a good idea to probably store the ID. I feel like having the language is important. So one other thing that I'm thinking about right now is how I want to handle, like, if someone wants to code review it multiple times. So let's say I want to code review the same repository. I'm deciding whether I want to make this repo ID unique or not. Node underscore ID is used for some GraphQL stuff. Could be good to store that as well. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be doing some GraphQL stuff, so let's go ahead and keep that as well. Yeah, we're going to just camel case it. I want to say unique is true. I think in this case then, really I want to make not a code review. Really, I'm going to call this a repo. And then a repo can have code reviews. Okay. This makes sense because really we're storing all this information for a repo. So name, description, repo ID, language, node ID. Let's keep looking. So one thing I see missing is tags. Or not tags, but these thingies, topics is what they call them. So I may just not have topics for this particular one, but I do have topics for Code Ponder. So let's see if those topics show up. Nope, I'm not missing it. Does it just not give you the topics back then? Maybe you need to use the GraphQL API for that. That's kind of unfortunate. I kind of wanted to get those. That's tags. Tags is, I think, yeah, it's talking about get tags. I'm trying to see if maybe it's a URL. Maybe it's languages. TypeScript, HTML, JavaScript. So it tells me what percent each one has. That's interesting. So the language one here only gives me the topmost one. I don't think there's actually any reason to store this exact data in our database. I think we want to just reference this every time from GitHub for now. I'm just seeing if there's a way to get the tags, because that's kind of an important one to get. Tags URL maybe? It's definitely not this, because that's get tags. Where was tags URL? Maybe this? Yeah. Form.username.data Ithon is better. No tags. Wait, what do you mean, Matthew? Yeah, this is currently the data. Yeah, main machine, here's where we're at. So what I just set up is we are currently fetching all the repositories for a user. So this is currently all my repositories, and this is an autocomplete field. So here I pick Code Ponder, and this is with downshift. And then when we click on that, we get all this. This is the data that we get from the API. Oh, you just meant to say Python is better? You know, okay, so one thing that I really miss when I go to Python is being able to destructure stuff. Right here. So this is the few things. So I love being able to do ... syntax in JavaScript and to destructure things. So that's one thing that I miss whenever I do Python now. But other than that, I do like Python. Yeah, this is TypeScript. All right, let's just see. So GitHub topics. We do not want one. Delete. The topics, oh, here we go. The topics property for hothering is currently available for developers to preview. To view topics property and calls return, you must write a custom media type in the accept header. Mercy preview JSON. All right. So how do I add a custom header to this? Here we go, headers. You just got a new programming or laptop for programming. Which laptop did you go with? You go with Mac, Windows, or Linux? Let's do, where did I put Octo? There we go. Does it tell me what to name this? Does it literally want me to call it accept? Is there a consensus on what we are going to store in the database, or are we going to fetch everything GitHub and keep an eye on their guidelines for rate living? Headers accept. Okay, cool. So here's my current thoughts on how I'm going to handle this. So I was in the middle of actually writing out what I wanted to store for the repository in this, but I'm basically just copying. Okay, this is the repo. I saw this access token and thought I was on the user, but that's because I just copy pasted. All this information is basically just a copy paste from the GitHub's API right now. So I think what I want to do is not even bother storing the repo information and see if I can get away with that. And basically make as many requests as I can from the GitHub API in this first version. I know I'm going to hit rate limit problems if this gets more popular, but then I plan on going in and kind of handling that when that comes up. Hey man, been lurking in your channel for a while now and saw that you've been opening up pull requests for UI components in your last video. Just a PR for GitHub topics. Oh, thank you, man. I'll take a look at it after I'm done with this. So let's see if we get the topics. So refresh. Nice. Now we get the topics. Perfect. There's an endpoint. Yes. First uppercase. What do you mean first uppercase? All right, so I mean, we're getting all the information that we want from GitHub now. Let's go check out the PR. Nice. Looks good to me. Let's see what this guy looks like. So let's merge him in. Thank you for the pull request. And so now we can pull it. So we're gonna say git pull. And I need to make sure to say origin master. All good. And now we're gonna say storybook. And we can take a look at what these tags look like. Repos.topics. Okay, so I could have done a separate request if I wanted to get all the topics. Looks like we can bundle it in the request. Nice, this looks sweet. This looks exactly like the design. Good job, man. One thing, I think when we hover over this, I think we want to make them clickable. That way I can then search them. So one thing we can do for that is we can say cursor, pointer, and then maybe we can add like a hover on it. Yeah, there we go. Now it looks like I can click it, and I don't know what the hover should look like. Astro says, hey Ben, I am using Axios for submitting the form in React.js. On the server side, I am using that. Okay. So you're making a post request with Axios and you're using Express for your API. I guess we can leave this in. Why not? All right, so where were we at? What do we want to do next? So we have all this information now. Oh, that's right. So I want to fork it. So I need to create like a separate GitHub account that just forks things. And so we're going to have a repository or a GitHub account that just forks all the different people who do a code review. And then we're going to, and that's what we're going to access. So I'm trying to decide if I need to store any of the original person's repository. Nope. For now, I'm gonna just go ahead and ignore it. Let's go ahead and set up this second. Let's set up this forking thing that I'm talking about. So I need to create a GitHub account. So I'm just gonna real quick put this up while I create a separate GitHub account. Okay. But why is an options request sent and can I disable it? Options is automatically sent, I believe, and I don't think there's a way to disable. I mean, there might be a way to disable it. That's just for it to see whether it can actually send a post request. All right. Skip this step. All right, so I created my repository, or sorry, not repository, but second user. Let me just confirm his email. All right, so now I have this guy. So I called him CodePonder admin, and he's going to just be forking stuff. So now let's see if with this API over here, if there's a way to fork. So I can see forks. Here I want to create one. Create a fork for the authenticated user. Note, forking a repository happens asynchronously. You may have to wait a short period of time before you can access the Git objects. All right, that's fine. So I'm actually thinking, nah. So I had one thought. I was like, why even fork it at the very beginning? When we're setting up the framework for this, we might as well just request, yep. So I changed my mind again. So my original thought was forking it so we can like snapshot it. But I think actually for the first version, I'm not even gonna worry about it. If you change the code, it's gonna mess up the code review, and that's okay. That's gonna be like the next iteration is we can improve this. So I want to because I want to continue on and get more of the bulk of it done. I have heard of styled systems. Have you heard of styled system? It's from the same guy who created Formic. Is it really? First, I have heard of styled systems or system, and I'm using it in one of my projects. So I'm actually using styled systems in Saffron. So I'm using it with this in conjunction with styled components. But yeah, this is a different guy than, let's see who the contributors are. Yeah, Formic was made by a different guy than this. But yeah, I definitely like styled systems. I feel like I don't use it correctly, but I like it. Yeah, Jared Palmer created Formic. So we need to create a code review entity. So I guess we can just follow the same thing here. The same format of how GitHub works, where they do /username/repository. So when I go to benawad/codeponder, on codeponder.com, it should open up that repo. So let's set that up. So I'm gonna wait on doing this repo entity. I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. So first thing I want to set up is the route for it. So I'm going to say routes.add so this should be a routes. So the name of this is going to be, why don't we just call it, should we just call it repo? Yeah, let's call it repo for now. And the pattern is going to be /username/repo. Nice, I'll try to get it set up. That way we can use colors from design more easily in the UI components. Cool, that sounds good. So now in my pages over here, I'm going to create a repo.tsx. And the whole point of this component is going to be to show the file system. So basically, we're currently copying basically how GitHub works with this infrastructure. So when I go to benawad/codeponder.com, I actually see the code for it. So that's basically what we're going to try setting up right now. So we actually do care about who the current user is, so I guess we can keep this. We can fetch this here. I'm actually trying to decide whether we care about who the current user is. No, let's assume we don't care for this particular. So now on query, we should have access to some stuff. So we're going to get rid of authenticate, all this jazz, and I'm just going to console log query to make sure it looks like how I expect it to. Okay, compiled successfully. So now when I go to benawad/codeponder, there's no default export. So now we have access to the username in the repository, and we can use that to get the current repo. right, so we want to find a single repo. How would we do that? Haha, perfect. All right, why don't we just pass the query directly in? In that case, I'm going to rename this to owner. We need to await it, and then .data. So we're going to say repo is going to be response.data. Oops. And I'm going to call this response. So we'll see what our props look like. I think we should see the code ponder repo in here now. Styled systems, a package which I'm a big fan of. Yeah, styled systems, from what I can tell, is basically just helps you kind of theme or have consistent styles across your application and help kind of reuse that across components. So we got data. Awesome. So I don't know if we actually care to get all this junk. I think what we care about is this tree URL. Oh, it didn't give me a trees. Oh, because I have to add the... So what I want to fetch here is basically the file tree. Which I think I may use this and like pass in master or whatnot. Let's see if the octokit has what we want. So it's going to be the same request that this thing uses right here. So I'm going to just go to the network tab and see what request this makes. So let's go to the response headers. One of these things is what we care about. All right, so they are going to the master tree recursive 1. So if I copy this, say /master, yeah, that's what we want. And this gives us the first level. And then when we click on this, it gives us the next level, I'm guessing. So here's our Docker ignore. So it either gives us the blob. So what happens if we click on the blob? So the blob tells us how we actually get the blob. Oh no, it just recursively requests itself. I guess this is the content that's encoded in base 64. So if I do base 64 decode, it will give us it. Yep, that's perfect. Cool. And so what about for folders? Folders, it gives us another tree. Cool. So with octokit, I'm not sure how we request the trees. I'm just going to type in the word tree. .get tree. What are you doing right now? So octochat.tree.get tree. So over here, when I go to the URL binawad/codeponder, I'm currently doing the same mapping that GitHub does. So /binawad/codeponder. And so what I'm currently trying to set up is to display the same thing that GitHub does. So what GitHub displays is these files. So what I want to do is display these files. And so what I'm trying to figure out right now is the API request that I need to make to GitHub's API to get that data back. And so I found it, I think. And so we're going to request that and do that. Yeah. Doesn't look like there's a repos.get tree, but there's a .get tree. And here we pass in the owner, which is we're going to get some query.owner. There's a repo, which is going to be query.repo. And we're going to get master. Recursive, no. So we don't care about getting that right now. Nice, so now I can see all the files. So it's for reviewing GitHub repos. Yes, that's basically what I'm currently setting it up with, is GitHub and doing public repos. And the idea is we are going to use the same file structure or URL structure so we can fetch the same data. So if I go to a different one, so binawad.com, I should be able to do the same thing here and get the files that binawad.com uses. And we can see here, and I think those are, yep, those are the same files. So that's cool. So now I just want to actually create the files and basically display this thing. So basically we're going to work on that next. And that's what I think we'll work on next stream. So I think I'm going to end the stream here, and tomorrow we'll pick up with, I think we're going to do some UI work tomorrow and actually create like this version. We have the mockup created, and go ahead and create the UI, the styled component for it. So Viable Clan member said, hi, I had a thought. Should the front end be hosted on a CDN like S3, but then once you log in, it could use Node/Express server? So are you talking about how I'm building it on Next and split it up, have some of it hosted on the CDN and some of it hosted on NEC or Express? And are you thinking doing it that way because like our front page is going to be accessed a lot and we want to cache that and have that in like a CDN and have them handle that? Yeah. So the only thing with that is it's just more complex to set up. I definitely see doing that. I think that makes sense to like set something up like that because you're right. The homepage is going to be accessed way more than everything else. But yeah, I think we should definitely set something up like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this stream, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.